Well, this is actually the fourth generation of the Berlin Wall. This wall went up in 1975. So before then, on 13th of August, when the original wall went up, what actually went up was a barbed wire fence. The barbed wire fence went up all the way around West Berlin. Then the next day they start replacing it with a breeze-blocked barbed wire top wall. Now, these actually weren't really effective. It's not that many people escaped, but they were much more porous than this wall, for example. Basically, people would crash their cars through it, people would be able to jump over it, and there were a number of escapes. So over the next few decades, they started to build up the wall. Now, the very important thing to remember about this wall is this is the Berlin Wall as far as West Germans are concerned. Okay, this is the wall that they would have seen. For East Germans, they would have seen a different wall that ran up to 100 meters back on the other side. Okay, here, the inside wall actually would have been made up by this building here, so it would have actually been quite a narrow strip between them. But this strip between the two walls was known as the death strip, right? And it's pretty well named because if you went into it, then there's a really high chance you're going to die. Because what you have is you first of all have finely raked sand. All the ground is finely raked sand so they can see any footprints. You have 24-hour daylight. You have guard towers every 300 meters with snipers with shoot to kill orders. There's barbed wire fences with electrical link up, so as soon as you touch them, to try and climb over them, a silent alarm goes off in the control tower. You have a road. Sorry. You have a road, so guards can constantly move around on it. All guards are in groups of 3, so guards can't choose to escape. And then finally you have this wall. Now this wall, you're kind of maybe wondering why has it not got barbed wire on the top of it? That would probably be pretty effective for stopping people from escaping. Now, the reason there's not barbed wire is because what they were finding, when they originally put it up, they did have barbed wire on the top, and they found that people actually could escape more easily with a barbed wire top wall. Yeah, what people are doing is they're jumping up and they're grabbing onto the barbed wire and they're pulling themselves over on the wire. Okay, West Berlin's got good hospitals, but so you can get away that way. So what they do is they replace it with this pipe. This pipe is actually sewage piping. Okay, the reason they've got sewage piping there is because it's exactly the wrong diameter to get your arm around. You're always slipping off there, grappling hoops slip off it. It's a really effective barrier for stopping people getting over. Now there were still escapes. In fact, here was a site of quite a famous escape. There was a man who worked in this building, he was an engineer, and he realized that the door up to the roof of the building wasn't being locked at night for some reason. So what he did is he brought his children or his child and his wife into work. His child was 6 years old, and he put them into a toilet cubicle in the bathroom, and he made a little sign for the door that said out of order, stuck it on the door, and he said to his son, if you stay quiet all day and you don't make a single sound, then I'm going to buy you a new bike tomorrow. Okay, now the boy, he did a good job. He was silent the entire day. They weren't discovered. The building was closed at night. He went, he got his wife, and he got his son. He took them up onto the roof, through the open door. He threw a rope over the wall to a friend of his in West Berlin, who tied it around a tree. He'd made harnesses for all his family. He's very sort of ingenious kind of guy. And they zip wired across into West Berlin. Now, they were in freedom, but the problem was that he didn't have a job, he didn't have any Western money, and so he couldn't buy his son a bike. So the boy was pretty sad. Luckily, a Western newspaper found out about this, and they bought his son a bike. So it was a happy ending for everyone involved. The reason that this bit of wall is still here is not because it's a nice place for tourists to come and take a picture of the wall in the centre of Berlin. It's actually because of what's on the other side of it. Now I mentioned earlier this remembering about active history. This is one of these places where history actually happened. On the other side of this wall is, are the foundations of the SS and Gestapo headquarters. This street used to be called Prince Albrechtstrasse. It was one of the most notorious addresses in the entire of Germany. People were brought here when arrested by the SS and Gestapo. In these foundations were the cells of those buildings, and this is where people were tortured and murdered by those Nazi secret police organs. And so what they've done is they preserved it, they turned it into a museum. The museum's called the Topography of Terror. It's definitely worth a visit. It's free of charge. They've actually just built a new indoor museum, and yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, does anybody have any questions?